Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know. On today's show, we're going to be running you through Ryan Tannehill's reported release that is upcoming. Obviously, the Brian Flores news that he's going to be showing up on Monday. A bunch of other quarterback stuff. Some tanking stuff. Is it true? Is it not? So hopefully, if you like that, you'll stick around. And please go out check out the channel if you can, if you're a Dolphins fan. All the support is greatly appreciated. So, this first news story comes from Bleacher Report. And obviously a bunch of other news sites. Dolphins likely to cut Ryan Tannehill after failing to find trade offer. The Miami Dolphins are planning to move on from quarterback Ryan Tannehill, but are unlikely to complete a trade, according to Armando Salguero of the Miami Herald. Though the team is hoping to trade him for draft picks, quote, the more likely scenario for resolving Tannehill's departure from Miami is an outright release of the player at some point in this offseason, Salguero wrote. The holdup in any potential trade is the quarterback's massive contract, which features a base salary of $18.7 million in 2019 and $19.5 million in 2020. He could potentially restructure his contract, but he has shown no interest in helping facilitate a trade. Tannehill is expecting a release at some point in the offseason. Smart by Tannehill, not willing to help facilitate a trade. Obviously, he wants to go where he chooses. Nobody can really blame him there. There's also a report saying that Tannehill realizes the situation and does not expect to be a Dolphin for much longer. So anybody who is thinking he could be a bridge quarterback is obviously wrong. And we're going to be talking about tanking here in a second, but I feel like this pretty much hints at the fact that the Dolphins aren't going to take, unless they just want to get out from under the contract, which makes sense. But it isn't. It could be just be that. I could be wrong. It probably is that. I guess we could have probably signed some vet. I don't know. I would have to look at the route. Maybe like a Tyrod Taylor to be a bridge quarterback for a lot cheaper. So I guess it is just the situation we're in. It really doesn't point to anything, but it is what it is. I think we all expected this to happen. It's not surprising news. It's so interesting that this is how it ends, because I was one of those people that supported him for all 6 years here. Was waiting to see that development in his game come to fruition, and it never really did. It's just unfortunate. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Greer hired Flores, not Ross. While the Dolphins owner Stephen Ross has played a large role in hiring Miami's coaches in the past, that wasn't the case this time around. Ross identified and hired Adam Gase on his own, but had nothing to do with bringing in a new coach and waiting Brian Flores. Sources told Armando Salguero of the Miami Herald. Instead, it was new GM Chris Greer who is solely responsible for hiring Flores, Salguero writes. Salguero writes that Greer and Flores are longtime friends, and now that the ex-Dolphins coach told him it was, quote, no secret within the organization that Greer was focused on Flores as the favorite to be Miami's new head coach, even before interviews began. The current Patriots defensive play caller and Greer both started as scouts in their respective organizations, and Salguero writes that their paths crossed frequently, sparking a friendship. Miami is reportedly all in on tanking in the 2019 season, and it'll be very interesting to see how Flores fares. That's an interesting report. The GM. Now, obviously, if we are tanking, I assume Steven knows that. But how patient is he willing to be? Because obviously, if the owner didn't bring him in, it's a little bit easier to let him go. That's an interesting dynamic there. I don't think it really matters. We're going to take this hit here. Obviously tanking. If it is true, which, to be honest with you guys, I think it is true. it's unfortunate that we're going to have to deal with a season like that, but you never know. I mean, young teams, we have good young players on this team, and we'll see what happens. We're not going to actively try to lose, but we're obviously not going to have the greatest roster in the world. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we can pull some stuff out. We have a solid young team. It's not like terrible. I don't think we'll be god-awful. I think we'll be better than a lot of people think we will be. Will we go to the playoffs? Very, very unlikely. Obviously, very, very unlikely. So, interesting. This next news story also comes from Pro Football Rumors. Saints to hire Darren Rizzi. This sucks, guys. This really sucks. One of the league's most respected special teams coaches is headed to New Orleans. The Saints have hired Dolphins special teams coordinator Darren Rizzi. This week, the Saints chose to move on from their previous special team staff, which was headed by veteran guru Mike Westhoff. Rizzi will now step in after courting interest from multiple clubs around the league. In addition to serving as Dolphins special teams coordinator, Rizzi has also carried the title of assistant head coach after the firing of Adam Gase. The Dolphins interviewed Rizzi for the job. When Rizzi didn't get the gig, he resolved to moving on. It sucks because Darren's such a great special teams coach. Such a great special teams coach. The second, if not the best, in the National Football League. Seriously. And it sucks to lose someone like that who brings that kind of production to the field. I mean, he's Mr. Consistency. He finds kickers basically every single season and makes them very productive. And that's something that's very valuable, obviously, especially last year with all those kickers missing all those field goals in clutch situations. I mean, we think about Chris Boswell, Graham Gano in Carolina. Who else am I thinking? Oh, Cody Parkey. Obviously the Chargers have dealt with it for the last few seasons. It's very important. It's very, very important. So it sucks to see that great coach leave. But it is what it is. We got to move on. This next news story, this is obvious news, but I thought we would go through it really quick. Comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins unlikely to be active in free agency. The Dolphins are not expected to pursue top-end free agents when the market opens in March, sources tell Armando Salguero of the Miami Herald. That strategy would represent a shift under new general manager Chris Grier, who last month was promoted to replace Mike Tannenbaum as Miami's top personnel decision-maker. Dolphins owner Stephen Ross has historically been open to adding expensive free agents, but deals for players such as Ndamukong Suh, Lawrence Simmons, and others didn't help Miami get any closer to championship contention. With Grier and presumptive head coach Brian Flores now leading the club, the Dolphins seem to be planning a different approach. No, duh. They literally said in the press conference that that was going to happen. Obviously, dude. It is what it is. I guess some fans are going to be upset about it. Listen, dude, whatever it takes to win again, I don't care. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to win. Seriously. And I know there's that argument that tanking doesn't guarantee winning and stuff of that nature. I would disagree with that. If you do it the right way, it does guarantee winning. If you look over the last few years of some of these football teams that turn it around, the Colts are a perfect example of that. They were terrible. We could go down the list. The Rams, the Eagles, they weren't terrible, but they mortgaged their future. But the Rams are a perfect example of that. The Colts are a perfect example of that. If you do it the right way and you have good front office, a good front office in place, then you can be very successful. So I disagree with that. If you do it the right way, and especially since if it is for, let's say, like a Tua, then it's going to be worth it for sure. We're going to have a quarterback for 15 years who's a franchise caliber guy, without any doubt in my mind. So it's definitely worth a year taking a hit. I'd rather do that than have a decade of mediocrity, for sure. And also, one thing I also want to add on to this is this whole, look at all these other Dolphins who go somewhere else and have success. What the heck does that mean? Dude, look at the teams some of our players go to. Of course they do. It's not like, oh, the Dolphins, like, what? And the whole, like, the Dolphins have failed to replace Ndamukong Suh's presence since he left. Okay, so 1 year that he's been gone. Okay. Not only is that just ridiculous, but when he was here, our defense was terrible. I mean, 2016, we set a franchise record for terribleness of defense. I mean, statistically, that was the worst defense until we matched that last season. But statistically, that was the worst defense in Dolphins history. And we still made the playoffs. So it's not like Suh made any kind of difference anyway. I'm sick and tired of seeing that. It's stupid. This next news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins to hire 4 assistants. Let's see here. The Dolphins will not retain their longtime special teams coordinator, according to Barrow. Yeah, we know. Miami will instead hire former Buffalo special teams coordinator Danny Crossman to take over the role. Additionally, former Texans offensive coordinator and 2018 Lions quarterback coach George Godsey will be the Dolphins' new tight end coach, and former Fins wideout coach Carol Dorrell will be back for a second stay in his job. Yates adds that Pat Flattery will join the staff as offensive line coach. Flores wanted to move in a different direction for the team's special teams coach. That's interesting that it was Flores who decided to do that. Yeah, so it's just a bunch of assistants, really, that we added. The only real, they're obviously certain. Offensive line coaches is very important. But other than that, offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator are the most important and make the most impact on game day, obviously. So, the fact that Chad and Patrick are coming down, Patrick Graham, I like the 2 moves. Now, reportedly Brian is not going to be involved in play calling and stuff of that nature. He's just going to be a head coach, which kind of sucks because Brian's been, as long as he's installing his defense, I don't care. But obviously Brian's playoff run is historically great in terms of a play caller. So it's kind of like it is what it is, but it would be cool it doesn't really matter to me. But obviously Brian has shown his chops as being a really, 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 really good play caller. All right, we have one more news story on the dock here. And it really is just it's more Tannehill news. So we really already covered it. But we had some tanking news. Let me try to find that really quick. But I guess that the news really doesn't surprise anybody. Obviously. So yeah, tanking news is basically the Dolphins are going to tank. It's interesting, man. I've seen a lot of interesting. Fans are super against it, which I did not expect that. I did not expect that. I think things will change if they fall in love with the quarterback, but I honestly doubt that's going to happen. I don't think that'll happen unless Drew Lock. I definitely don't think the Dolphins are trading up for any one of them. And maybe they have one, maybe 2 guys that they really like. So the chances of us getting one in the 29th, especially I'm talking a high value guy in that draft, is very low. I feel like we just blazed through that news section for sure. All right, let's get into the fan Q&A, I guess. We got 14 minutes into the show. I feel like the news was a little longer than that. But we forgot one. I forgot one news story, guys. I'm sorry. Brian Flores will be introduced Monday. So tomorrow he will be introduced as the new Dolphins head coach. That comes from Pro Football Rumors. I'm very excited for this press conference. It's getting me hyped up. This is a very underrated part of the year for a fan. I really enjoy the process of building a football team, whether it's the good way or the bad way. I really don't care. It's just it's fun to talk about it. So I'm excited for the months to come. Even if we do tank, even if we do tank, which is a very interesting word, especially in football, because what that really just means is you're just not trying to lose, but again, the roster just won't be out of this world. But if the reports are true that the Dolphins are trying to go with the trenches this year and then quarterback next year, that's the way to do it. If you were going to do it that way, then that would be the way to do it. So build the foundation this year. Let those players have 1 year under their belt. Bring in the rookie. He's got good surroundings around him. I guess would be the most ideal scenario. All right, let's get into the fan Q&A. Man, I feel like we flew through that news, dude. Flew through it. I guess there wasn't a lot. It's just it's more exciting than anything. I'm excited for Brian Flores, guys, as I get this fan Q&A set up, get these questions in. I'm very, very excited about it. Just to let you know my opinion before we get into the fan Q&A. I'm very, 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 very excited. This playoff run has got me stoked. Obviously some of the big calls in that game, the zero coverage blitz towards the end of the game, that basically won the Patriots the game. What I'm talking about is Stephon Gilmore interception. That was a beautiful call. They knew exactly what the Rams were going to do every single down. Every single down, dude. They were extremely, extremely prepared for the Rams. Now, he was obviously calling plays, but getting a team prepared is a completely different thing, and hopefully he can bring that that's the thing that I wanted him to bring more than anything to Miami, is getting the team prepared each and every single week at a high level. And obviously Bill is the best ever to do it. I'm hoping he can bring that to Miami. That's why I don't care. Just bring that to Miami. Get the team prepared each and every single week to beat whatever opponent we go against. That's what I care about. That's the big question mark for me. Can he bring that to Miami? Obviously, he's a very talented defensive mind. He gets football. You don't just do that in a Super Bowl game, dude, with one of the most high-powered offenses we've seen in a very long time, especially these last 2 years. To do that to them is very impressive. I mean, they did it to the Chiefs in the first half of that game. Pitched a shutout, that's obviously one of the great offenses we've seen of all time. To do what they did against the Chargers, just utterly dominate them on defense. He had one heck of a run, but he just needs to bring that preparation to Miami that New England has. Obviously that leads to consistency, being prepared, and that's what I really hope. But it's gotten me stoked. How can you not be stoked? Adam Gase did what he did in 1 year in Denver, and what Brian has done was more impressive than that. So that's why Adam got the job in here. That's why he got the job, and that's why he was so highly coveted when he was up for the head coaching job. But what Brian did, that one run, was more impressive than any coach that was hired this year. Was way more impressive than that. You think about now. Obviously, Bill's in the building, and he gets that team prepared each and every single week. Don't get me wrong; it's not all Brian. I understand that. Brian doesn't put the team together. Brian doesn't help prepare the team each and every single week. That's Bill. I get that. I'm not saying it's all Brian, but as a play caller, what he was able to accomplish is better than any of the other coaches that were hired, and it's not even close. So that has to be, especially. I feel like not only did we get a really good head coach, we don't know if he's going to be a great. Nobody really knows, but a really good head coaching candidate, and we waited longer than anybody else to get the job to do the right thing. But our coaching staff is really good. Our offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator choices were really, really solid, especially our offensive coordinator choice. That is the hire for me that I utterly love. And the defensive coordinator choice is really good too. Obviously the linebackers coach, he was the linebackers coach in New England, he obviously in Green Bay, and what he was able to do with the Packers linebackers with Farrell and Blake Martinez, and then obviously what he did with Dante Hightower and some of the players down there, Jamie Collins, all of it. Yeah, dude. He was also a very, 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 very good pick. So it's gotten me very, very excited. Very, very excited. And patience is going to be a virtue. Do not judge him off this first season. The Seahawks obviously had a down year. The first year Pete was there, they went 7-9. I think they may have made the playoffs that year. I'm not sure. So it wasn't like a super down year. But obviously Bill had a down year his first year in New England. It takes time. So don't be like, all that other stuff if we don't succeed our first season. You should expect that. At least this season, we don't have any expectations. And I think that's going to help the fans and Brian for sure. It should help that whole situation. It should help Stephen Ross as well. Just leaving them alone for a good two to 3 full years. It should help a lot. All right, let's get into the fan Q&A. We should have a lot of questions, obviously. We're a little bit more than we did last time. This question comes from John. He says, John Nolan. He says, do you change your stance on Kyler Murray after his Dan Patrick Show interview? It was an awful, awful look. It definitely wasn't a good look. It was a terrible look. I didn't mind so much. I get like his reluctance to answer questions about referring to whether he wants to play football or baseball. It's a big deal. Obviously, this is what he's going. This changes his life, whatever he picks, for better or worse. So I don't care about the way he reacts to those questions. It was just some of the other stuff in that interview was just like, good Lord, man, like. Maybe he's just not good in front of a camera and a mic. It could be that. Hopefully that's just not the Kyler Murray the person. Because if you're a person who's very awkward, especially in a social situation, not only that, but in front of other people. There was an audience there, the camera in front of a mic in front of him. As my pug, I think, just died. Forgot. I don't know what the heck he just made that sound for. What was I saying? That distracted me. The whole Kyler Murray thing. That could have been that too, like answering questions that were very like cringeworthy, like the way he answered some of those questions. The worst part of that interview for me was when he was like, "Hey, did you watch the Deion Sanders documentary?" And he said, "What time did it air?" And he said, Dan said 9:30. And then Kyler said, "No, I was busy." That was like, what the heck was that? Okay, big shot. That was the worst part of that interview for me. But again, that could have been just in the moment. He's an awkward dude in front of like that kind of stuff. That doesn't mean he is that guy. He could have just been, just an awkward dude. But does that change my stance on Kyler Murray? The thing that really changes my stance on him more than anything that makes me, not the interview, but that makes me nervous, I guess, is just his unwillingness to commit, man. It's like, if you want to be, being a quarterback of an NFL franchise is a special thing. Like, it's very special. It's very difficult. But it is weird that he is so even on both. It's just interesting to me. But does that interview change anything? No. I just feel like, hey, he's a human. There could have been many different factors into the way he acted that way, and I don't think that points to anything crazy. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer. He says, a wide receiver that I think could be a gem steal in the 4th or 5th round would be Gary Jennings from West Virginia. Also, would you have any interest in signing Devin Funchess to free agency? You guys opened a can of worms and you guys didn't even know it, dude. You didn't even know it, dude. Okay? Do I want to sign Devin? Did you just ask? Listen, Corporate Gamer, I love you. You're a huge supporter of this channel, but Devin Funchess is hot garbage, seriously. And I got the unfortunate privilege of watching that Panthers offense for most of the year, because obviously my brother, huge Panthers fan. Try to watch as many Panthers games as I can with him. And Devin Funchess is hot garbage. He's so bad. He's so slow. He doesn't run very good routes. His hands are terrible. There was a play where he was wide open and could have literally walked into the end zone and didn't even look for the ball. And he came through right on the money. Didn't even look for it. Devin Funchess is terrible. So, no. And Gary Jennings, don't know a lot about him, if I'm being honest. So, can't really comment on that. This next question comes from Crow. He says, how do you feel about the coaching staff that Flores is assembling? I love it. I love the moves so far, especially the offensive coordinator pick. The way he's developed receivers down there and gotten, just not only that, but getting receivers ready to play in that system, turning no names into something good. And he's been there for, don't get me, I could be wrong about this, but for the majority of the New England Patriots' reign of terror. So, if not all of it. So, I think that's even before Josh McDaniels. So, I feel like we're a little bit before Josh McDaniels, or maybe the same amount of time, I don't know. But he was a big part of it, and I'm very excited about this coaching staff. Very, very excited. Even though it might take a while, I feel like the franchise is in good hands. This next question comes from Cuba. He's Cuba underscore FIFA, I think. He says, 5 free agents that you will love the Dolphins to sign. This is a great question. Off the top of my head, I couldn't give you... I mean, I could probably give you... Okay, let's see here. Grady Jarrett, to me, is a great player. I love him. I love his game. I think he's young. He's a great player, and I think I would love to have him. Malcolm Brown, another young, really good player, in my opinion, who obviously was in New England with Brian Flores, so maybe that's something that we look into. Some other players. Steven Nelson, a very underrated corner on Kansas City. I think he's a good player. I think he fits the scheme and press man. He did obviously majority of that single high safety press man stuff in Kansas City. I felt like if that defense was more aggressive in terms of sending pressure, it would have been a lot better than it was. And Steven Nelson, I think, was a good player on a bad defense. So was that 3? I'm trying to think of realistic picks. Like, Grady Jarrett is not a realistic pick for us. He's going to command a lot of money. But Malcolm Brown is like a realistic, good signing for us who could really, really help us. He's a dominant run stuff player. So, and we haven't had that in a very long time. He's like a not really Randy Starks, but a very productive, like he could really help our run defense a lot. And obviously the New England connection is big there. I would have to look at a list, but I think it's, was it 3? I guess that's good enough. I have a list of it here. That I keep on my iPad, so let me go ahead and get that real quick. But yeah, Grady Jarrett, I don't think is a realistic, get there because of he's just gonna be so high. He's just gonna be in very high demand. I'm trying to look at the defensive side of the football, not necessarily the offensive side. See here. Just go to the defense really quick. See if there's anybody that stands out. Brett Urban, really good player. Really good interior player. Very versatile. So that's 4. Under the radar guy who the Dolphins, that would be like a legitimate get there. Fits the hybrid front too. To a T. Let's see if I can't find anyone else. Trey Flowers, but he's gonna command a lot of attention. Frank Clark, a lot of attention, more of a pass rusher, not really a New England kind of a guy who can do it all. David Irving, good player, but gets hurt a lot. Danny Shelton, there you go, Danny Shelton, great player. For what he does. He's a great player for what he brings to a team. Just a really dominant run force and fits the personnel switching that New England loves to do, that I'm assuming Brian's going to bring here, and fits the hybrid front thing that they love to do, like really just switching personnel. They have a pass rush team. They have a first and second down team. And I feel like bringing Malcolm, Grady, Brett, who else? Who am I forgetting? Someone else that I'm skipping out on. Danny Shelton. That could really, we could have the best run defense we've had in the last 5 years if we bring two of those guys who we could afford. Those two guys could be very cheap. Could really drastically change the defense and just in general, really. And it could really help the transition from a 4-3 to a 3-4 hybrid defense. So that would be a huge plus as well. Alright, I gotta unlock my thing again, because it's always fantastic. Alright. So hopefully that answers your question, Cuba. This next question comes from Jonathan. He says, why wouldn't you be willing to take Ed Oliver, the defensive end out of Houston? He's a beast of a player. That if we're lucky enough, he will fall to us and can be an Aaron Donald type player if he's coached properly. I like Vincent Taylor's potential and Gotchow's gritty play style, but I still would like to get Oliver if he's there. Yeah, I agree. Good player. I have to watch a little bit more of Ed, but I know of him. I know a decent amount. I would have to watch more to compare, but I've heard a lot of good things about him. I've seen a lot of good things about him. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to Ed Oliver. I don't know what his draft stock is right now, but I'm not mad at it. I don't know if I ever said why wouldn't you be willing. I don't know if I ever said I wouldn't be willing. I don't know. Maybe I did, but I mean, yeah. I mean, it's not a terrible pick. I just don't want to take like a Deshaun Hand or Sheldon Rankins in the first round, who just does one thing when we could get a Malcolm Brown and or Danny Shelton who can do the exact same thing for like a cheap contract, and we don't waste a first round pick on it. You know what I'm saying? If he can be a pass rusher, he can do all 3 downs and be a very disruptive player. By all means, take him. But if you can only do one thing, absolutely not. The next question comes from Ron. He says, list your 5 biggest need positions on the Dolphins roster right now. Meaning wide receiver, tight end. Yeah, Ron, we know. Okay, Ron? Okay, we had one slip up. I'm not a 4-year-old. Okay? Obviously, I'm not joking. I'm not actually upset. List your 5 biggest needs. Oh, good lord. I mean, offensive line. The interior of the offensive line, which is 3 positions right there. It's a huge need. Quarterback, obviously. I mean, I mean, we could list a lot right now. Second corner on the boundary. Interior lineman on the defensive line. I feel like we need more variety there. A consistent pass rusher on the edge, like edge play. Dude, there's a lot that we need. I really hope we take like a TJ Warren type of a player that can do like set the edge, rush the passer, who just super technically sound, like the old school New England Patriots outside linebacker. Hybrid type of a player. Like, I hope we take someone like that in the draft, because that could really help us out big time. So yeah, all the things that I listed there. This question comes from B. Dennis. He says, T or F, the Dolphins will make multiple trades before the draft. T or F, the Dolphins will make multiple trades before the draft. No, I don't see that happening. I just don't know who you would trade. I mean, nobody on the roster I would be willing to give up draft capital for. Unless Mike Tannenbaum is on another team, then we could definitely dump a lot of players off our roster. This question comes from Ron. He says, what are your thoughts about this free agent front office already mishandling Ryan Tannehill's situation, basically costing any trade that could have happened by Ross telling media he's moving that Miami's moving on from him. I think it was dumb because the Redskins are desperate for a quarterback with Alex Smith's situation, and we probably costed getting their first round pick, which is reasonable due to the fact that Sam Bradford has gotten several teams a first round pick. That's interesting. No, I don't think Tannehill will have ever commanded a first round pick. Absolutely not. I mean, if the Redskins, if they're that desperate for a quarterback, I think they would rather just take one. I think they feel more comfortable taking a chance on someone than just getting Tannehill. I really do believe that, especially not wasting a first-round pick on him. But did the Dolphins mishandle it by the news coming out that they're going to release him? And Ross saying move on from Tannehill does not... I mean, yeah. I think everybody in the league knew that we were going to... I mean, everybody did. And that doesn't necessarily mean trade. I guess you could say, well, then if you can't trade him, then cut him. But... I think we kind of already said it in the beginning of the show, we kind of went over it. But I think everybody in the league already knew that. Especially Tannehill's not willing to, help with the trade in terms of taking pay cut and stuff of that nature, which is smart. Can't hate him on him for that. Because if I was in his situation, I would do the same thing. But I don't think the Dolphins did anything wrong in terms of that. I don't think you could have hidden that. And you're not getting a first 4 or 5 round draft pick for Tannehill. I really don't think that. This next question comes from Jay. He says, "What do you think about doing a mock draft at least the first round?" I said that we would do one, but it would be I would pick one out of the 32, and then I would have the rest of you guys do it. And we would do it the week of the draft. So the Sunday before, or the week, whatever the Sunday is before the draft, then that's when we would do it. B. Dennis says, #Fins in the house. What's up, Skags? Which would you rather have happen next year? Mike Gesicki becomes a dominant force in the offense, or Charles Harris becomes a dominant force in the defense? This is a super interesting question. The knowledge of football that I have tells me that obviously Charles Harris, and I'm going to have to go with Charles Harris, because having a pass rusher who's a dominant player is invaluable in today's NFL. So I'm going to have to go with Charles Harris on that one. I mean, he can affect the game more than a tight end can. Take Me Out says, did you see the Kyler Murray interview? Do you think you still want him as your franchise quarterback? Watching his maturity level was scary. The guy is nowhere near ready to play in the NFL. I think you are right, and I am also right on some level, because it is kind of speculation. Because it could have been he is an awkward guy, not very comfortable in front of a camera and a mic. It could be that, or you're right, he could just be not very mature. But under pressure situations like that, nervous, people say stupid stuff, dude. All the time. All the time. I once said to my aunt, she was calling me and I don't know, I wasn't nervous or anything. I don't know why I said it, but it was just because I was being stupid. She called me and she goes, happy birthday. And I said, thank you, happy birthday to you too, or something like that. Something so stupid like that. And I still think about that before I go to bed. I was like, why would... it's just stuff like that. People have moments like that. So I don't necessarily think that's him as a person. This next question comes from Jay Rose. That was a long pause. Jay Rose says, if you were the Dolphins, do you draft a blue-chip defensive playmaker or trade back 2 or 3 spots for more picks? This is a great question. If we were in, the top 5, then, dude, we would be in such a good spot. Because if the Dolphins don't want a quarterback, they could just load up on really good blue-chip players. But, unfortunately, we're 11, right? Are we 11? Yeah, I think we're like 11, right? So it would be, yeah, that would definitely be the move if we were in that spot. But depending on how the board falls, because I think if quarterbacks are just going, right, then we get like blue chip players fall to us just because of the bleed of those players. Then we're in a good spot. We don't have to move back, and we just take the player that we want. If the board continues to bleed and somehow we get like a Greedy Williams or someone like that who's just a really good player who drops just because of the quarterback market, then it's different scenarios. I would probably still stay where I am, especially if the quarterback market bleeds some really good players to us. So depending on how the draft goes, really. This question comes from Corporate Gamer. He says, we need to sign Xavier long term. It's hard finding a shutdown corner and one like him. We can't afford him once we get rid of our washed up players. I absolutely agree with that, and I feel like he fits the scheme to a T. I think he's a more talented player than Stephon Gilmore, and he's a great man press corner. It would be very stupid for us to get rid of him. It would just open up a big hole, and like you said, it's very hard to find a corner like him. Cody says, when is your mock draft coming out? Or Cody asks. If you guys really want me to do a mock draft, we're still going to do that fan thing. For sure, we're still doing that, because that's such a cool idea. But if you guys want me to do a mock draft so bad, I guess I'll do one next week. How's that? I'll do one next week's episode. And I guess we'll go through all 32 teams. J Rose says, this question comes from J Rose. He says, if we move on from Tannehill, who would you start between Brock, Fales, Luke, and Luke Falk, assuming we don't draft a quarterback? This is a great question, dude. High five for this one. He says, so between these quarterbacks, this is a great question. Obviously, Brock, no. It would be between Fales and Luke, and whoever deserves to start in training camp, preferably Luke, because at least they have somewhat of a future. Because Brock has no future, I know what he is. Fales, there's a mystique there. There could be room there. We really don't know. Luke Falk, we have no idea. I loved Luke Falk coming out of college. I thought his production was great, especially since he had like over 50 pass attempts, and statistically he was one of the most accurate passers in college football. With that many pass attempts is insane. With that volume of plays, with him passing the football is crazy. So I was really impressed by that. I think he could be a really, really great, I keep hitting the mic, a great pocket passer. At least I thought that. And then when I saw him in preseason, and I mean, good Lord, he looked terrible. The arm strength is an issue. Can he make all the throws? It is a huge question mark with him. And it just... but he's still on the roster. So we'll see after the entire offseason if he still is on the roster. But Luke Falk could literally... he could literally be something. Like, he could turn into something. I really do believe that. We'll see what he does in preseason, and but we have a Patriots coaching staff coming in here. We have Chad, who's the OC, coming in, who coached there for years and saw Tom work. Luke got a lot of comps to Tom Brady. So let's see what he can do with a quarterback like that. It's very intriguing, and that's something the Dolphins fans need to look out for. Our quarterback of the future could very well be in the building. Is it likely? No. Is it even close to being a thing that could happen? Absolutely not. But it is a very interesting situation with Luke being in the building. Very similar playing style, simulators to Tom Brady. It's very interesting stuff there. But I would definitely start Luke Falk. And Brock is not even in that conversation. Gamerific asks, what is your bedtime? None of your business, Gamer. None of your business. I'm just obviously joking around. Right? It's just, whatever, dude. It doesn't matter. Listen without warning. He says, do you consider ever collaborating on a show with somebody like KF Flexin or K Flexin. I said I would be willing to do it, but none of them have reached out. I mean, some of them have. Doug dude guy, he's reached out. I don't know if K Flexin has ever reached out, and those are the only two I know of. So, I mean, nobody's reached out recently. I would absolutely be willing to do it. You guys have, it's up to you. Go spread it. Say, yeah, go to their channels. Say, yeah, what's up? Let's do this thing. And then we'll work something out. I would definitely be down for something like that. I just don't know how we would do it because I do a podcast that's an hour long. You know, it would have to be. I don't know. I guess it would have to do whatever their format is, because obviously, I mean, I'm not gonna talk to these guys for an hour. I don't think they would want that. That if they would, that would be awesome. But because we could bounce questions off of each other, we could bounce news stories off of each other. I think that would be a killer podcast. But that's up to them. This next question comes from B. Dennis. He says, with the Super Bowl being in Miami next year, who are your way too early favorites to be in that game? Wow. I don't think Kansas City is going to be as good as they were a year ago. Because I think that division is going to get way better. The Steve Spagnuolo hiring is interesting, though. This is tough, dude. The AFC is way harder than the NFC. I think the Saints will come marching into Miami one more time. I think in the AFC, you got a lot of teams that could do it, that are talented enough to do it. You got Kansas City, LA, Chargers. I don't think New England's going to be that good next year. But they are New England. I mean, they'll be in contention. Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's in it. The AFC is very hard. It's very hard. I don't know, man. I couldn't tell you on the AFC. There's too many good teams. There's too many good teams that could do it. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer. He says, I know you don't like Will Greer, but I think he could end up being... Oh, my God. Corporate Gamer, no, dude. I think he could end up like Jimmy G. He shows some potential. He could succeed in a scheme like New England. He doesn't have a quick release, dude. He has no quick release. He's nothing like Jimmy G. He doesn't have the arm that Jimmy had. He doesn't have the mobility that Jimmy has. He doesn't have the football instincts that Jimmy had. He's nothing like him. He's not accurate. I mean, he's an accurate quarterback, but his release is so long. It's such a long delivery. You think about Tom Brady. Luke Falk is a great example of just a really quick release. I mean, that's all he did in college was just a quick passing game. But like that, like you have to have someone who has a quick release, especially someone who's going to be a pocket passer. They have to have a quick release. They have to make quick decisions with the football. They can't take sacks, take hits, because you're not going to be a good player if you're only a pocket passer. If you do that, I think we'll. He's just nothing like Jimmy, in my opinion. I don't like how. I apologize how it came at you though, because it's like yes, you calm down a little bit. It's your opinion. I respect that opinion because you could be right, but I just don't see the similarities in between the two. I hate when people just like it's literally either one of the people could be right and that one guy just acts like he's right and it comes at him like he knows. I don't know, and I apologize for coming at you like that. Corporate Gamer says, should we go after outside linebacker Preston Smith in free agency? He's a good player. I don't know if he fits the scheme though. He's more of a 4-3 guy. Corporate Gamer says thoughts on Montrez Sweat, the Mississippi State player. I don't know enough, but I've seen some things that I like. I don't know enough to make a judgment call on him yet. Gamer fixes. Are you a bat? No, dude. Maybe. Travis Bolton says Nick Foles. The only reason I say not Nick Foles, and well, there's a lot of reasons, but to keep it short and sweet, is we've already said that that's not how we're not going after big fish. And the Eagles they're gonna trade him, which is a smart thing to do. They're gonna get draft capital for him. No, that's not how we're gonna do things from here on out. That's not what Stephen Ross said. That's not what Chris Greer said. It just doesn't fit the regime. It doesn't fit anything we're doing. So that's why Nick Foles wouldn't. That's why Nick Foles will not be a Dolphin. Bad Bandit says, what do you think of Jake Fromm from Georgia? I think he might be better than Tua on the NFL level. This is an interesting question. Tua, I think, is a better player because of his off-script ability. I think he's just a better player overall. I like Jake Fromm a lot. I think he has franchise quarterback potential. I can't remember who they lost to in the was it the Orange Bowl? Dude, but he played terrible in that game, and they should have won that game. But he did not play very well in that game. I like Jake Fromm, but that game, I think he definitely got knocked down a couple notches in my mind. But I like Jake Fromm a lot. I mean, he had a lot of really good games against Nick Saban as a pocket passer, by the way, which is a lot more difficult than, say, like a Kyler Murray or a I guess not a Trevor Lawrence, because he's more of a pocket passer, but it's impressive that a pocket passer can have that success against an Alabama team. I think that says a lot about Jake Fromm. Corporate Gamer says, I think it might be worth tanking for Tua, but if we do draft a quarterback in the 3rd or 4th round and sign a short-term quarterback like dude, I swear to God, hopefully don't do any of that. Just go with Luke Falk, dude. Just go with Luke. You know what I mean? Or go with, a young buck. I don't need to see some old vet grizzled guy come in here and stink it up all year. I'd rather just see the development of a young player and if he's got it or not. So I would rather sit through a season of that than watch some, washed up, terrible quarterback play under center for us. So that is going to be it, guys. That is your podcast for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We ran through all the news you need to know. I'm very excited for this press conference coming up on Monday. I hope you guys are excited. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this podcast. A lot of sneezing in the background, a lot of coughing from the dogs. I apologize for that. I feel like this is a half-decent episode, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. But I'm very excited for the future of this franchise. A lot of interesting things that could go really, really well or really, really wrong that are about to hit us. So hopefully the front office makes the decisions. I like where their head is at, though. I like where the front office head is at. If the plan is to get a quarterback in 2020, build the team and build the heart and soul of this team, which matters the most, and then get that quarterback that you really want, that you know is going to be really good. And I know Tua is going to be great. And he wears number 13. It was meant to be, guys. I really do believe the stars have aligned, the cosmos have spoken. The next Dan Marino, the next franchise quarterback that we haven't had since Dan the Man Marino, will be someone who bears the number 13. It's going to be interesting to see if he is a Dolphin, what number he picks. So yeah. So that's going to be it, guys. I am Skags1383, and I will see you guys in the next one.